Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you your daily NVIDIA report for Friday, May 30th, 2025. Let's take a look at the charts. Big picture I'll begin with. 5 weeks ago, we settled above this 4 or 5 month descending channel top that is now well below the market at 102.39, but it did set up the low 150s as a 3 to 5 month objective. 3 to 5 weeks in, we are almost reaching this 150.80 formation. This has been amended. We were looking at the January high of 153 and change, but I see this structure as being the more significant of the two. It is a classic channel, can contain buying through June. We can fall away from here for several weeks, possibly several months. That is the magnitude, I think, of a retest of this high area. It also is being closed in on by this rising channel top that stems from the April low of 147.84. We've been following this all along. It became a 1 to 2 week objective about 3 weeks ago when we closed above this descending 2/3 speed line that is also well below the market at 117.45. We have yet to actually test this structure, but it is there, upper right, as the beginning of a significant range of targeted longer-term resistance. 150.80 able to contain monthly, possibly quarterly buying pressures. And yes, if over the next week, 2 or 3, we settle above 150.80, there is more upside to come, 170, 172, then the next 3 to 5 week objective. But I don't consider the low 170s a target unless we close above 150.80. And that is the upside pretty well. Now, for the day itself, yesterday's high of 143.49, if we can push through it, I would expect follow-through buying to 147.84. Once again, the beginning of a range up to 150.80, able to contain buying through the month of June. Until then, we may not even challenge 143.49. Our downside intraday support is 135.06, and that is nothing more than the sort of parallel, this is kind of a head and shoulders, or at least was. Now we blasted through the left shoulder on Thursday, and so it's kind of negated right now, not entirely, but I think it's in the process of, assuming we close today above 135.06, that is one element of negating a possible long-term head and shoulders formation. I use the parallels off the neckline, off the lows against the shoulder as the right shoulder development. And given the fact that we are now well above that, and if we close today above 135.06, this is just sort of a kind of a heads up. I see that as yet a secondary sign of strength. That 150.80 objective even likelier over the next week or two. 135.06 though for the day is a solid intraday pivot point. And we can test it and potentially rally back to 143.49 on an intraday basis. It's kind of like right in here, so we could trade inside that area. But if we break 135.06 today, I would expect this newly formed channel bottom at 132.36. And 132.36, based in part on yesterday's high, can absorb not only daily selling pressures, this is also a 3 to 5 day swing trade to the upside and a 1 to 2 week swing trade to the upside. Following a test of 132.36, we can round up within a couple of weeks to the 147.84 rising channel top. Actually, what it would be this 150.80 channel top. Following a test of the 132.36 channel bottom, you can go long here, anticipating upward rotation to the 150.80 level within a couple of weeks. And I'm focusing more on that than 147.84 because 147.84 is rising at a very steep pace, and by the middle of June we'll be in the lower 160s anyway. So it sort of diverges away from that 150.80. We'll be talking a lot about this formation at 150.80 in the weeks to come, and it does remain in reach over the next 2 to 3 weeks above 132.36. That is the 2 to 3, 1 to 2, 2 to 3 week swing trade. If given the opportunity to buy 132.36, that is the level to buy into on weakness. And following a testing of that, upward rotation into the low 150s. The inverse is also true, by the way, of 150.80, that if tested, between now and the end of next week, we can fall away back to some variation of this 132.36 channel bottom. Its structure will change if we push into the low 150s. The angle will be different, but we will be constructing it as a 1 to 2 week downside objective following a test of the 150.80 channel top. We could continue even further south than that. We could, following a test of 150.80, if I'm looking at the big picture, fall all the way back into what is now this rising channel support in the upper 110s, 118 even. But once again, this channel bottom is climbing daily and will be in the mid 120s over the next week or two anyway. So that's why I call this the dynamic approach to trend identification. I think it's a more valid approach to determining market turns rather than just static, say, Fibonacci levels, working at the structures, determining sort of the trend and what's happening, the 3 to 5 days out to 2 to 3 weeks, I think is a more accurate form of analysis. And if we do close, and this is not going to happen today, but if by some point next week we settle below this 132.36 channel bottom, I see no good reason to stay long NVIDIA if your time horizon is 2 to 3 weeks out, because I would then anticipate the 117.45 to 118 area. There are two scenarios, and I've already mentioned them, by which I would anticipate where you could actually trade and anticipate the upper 110s, at least as they exist right now with these convergent speed line and channel bottom. One is a settlement below 132.36. That is a sell signal that is establishing a short position on weakness. The other is selling strength at 150.80, because from here we can fall back to that same structure that is rising daily, that is now once again at 118 even and climbing. So yes, we'll keep you abreast of this on a day-to-day basis. That's what we do, and that is that. I think I've covered it all. I do want to mention that this week we put out a stock pick on Micron. You might want to check that out. It's still there. We see a solid 20% move to the upside on that stock, provided we get the specified buy signal. It's very close. You can check it out for free by going to wickedstocks.com and taking advantage of our 5-day free trial that we have up front. And with that, you'll also get our daily triple Q and our daily SPY analysis. I wouldn't day trade NVIDIA or swing trade NVIDIA without also seeing the triple Q, for instance, or even the S&P 500. So go to wickedstocks.com, take advantage of that 5-day free trial, and see what you're missing. I think that pretty much rounds it out. I am going to leave it at that for Friday's NVIDIA. I'll be back Sunday afternoon with Mondays. You have a great weekend.